It seems that ever since Friday the 13th was announced, there's been a lot of multiplayer horror games coming out. They did exist before, but they were never as popular as other types of horror games. It wasn't until Friday the 13th and Dead by Daylight came out that a lot of new games in the genre came out. Death Garden, Deceit, Secret Neighbor, Identity 5, Predator Hunting Grounds, and Last Year. Last Year was the one I was most interested in, due to the changes it made to set itself apart from the pack. While most games went for something similar to what DBD and Friday the 13th did, with one omni-powerful killer and ways for the survivors to slow them down, Last Year plays more closely to Left 4 Dead's Versus mode, with multiple killers who are strong but can be taken down when survivors work together. And that is a good way to set yourself apart from all the other games in the market. But does it do it well is the question. I made a video talking about my first impressions of the game and how they weren't the best. But hey, as a wise man once said, first impressions are everything wrong with the world. So let's give it another shot and see if my opinion on it changes. Oh, wait, never mind, apparently there are no servers available. Apparently the game died faster than the players. Unfortunately, unlike Death Garden, there isn't an opening cutscene to lay out the game's story, so let's just hop into the game. So as with other multiplayer horror games, there are two roles, the survivor side and the killer side. Killer side has the standard kill everyone as the objective to win the game, but survivors have something a bit different. Instead of doing the same thing X number of times, you'll instead be tasked with multiple different objectives throughout the course of the game, each depending on the map. Again, much like how Left 4 Dead had you go through a level to get to a safe room. Though most of the objectives do boil down to bring the thing from A to B, or hold down the action button for a few seconds, I feel like they could have added more to do. There are 4 classes of students with 5 players, so you'll likely have one person doubling up on a roll, although you can only have 2 max. The assaults, who have a pipe, which means they do more damage, medics who can heal allies, mechanics who can blaze turrets, and scouts who have trackers with built-in flashlights. Each class also has 4 unique craftable weapons, ranging from painkillers, a football helmet, a shotgun, tasers, flamethrower? Okay, I guess you can makeshift that one. All of this is made with scrap that you find throughout the game, either by searching through the environment or by killing spiderlings. You'll most likely have to split up the search for scrap since 2 people can't share scrap from the same place, and while some classes like the medic and tech can do fine without scrap, you'll likely need it to do well. Though you will have to be careful since you can be killed very quickly by the killer. Though, unlike other games in the genre, dying doesn't take you out of the match. Instead, you'll be placed in a closet and will need to be rescued by a fellow survivor. The name of the game is teamwork. One person can't carry the game on their own, everyone needs to work together to get through the match. And that is a blessing and a curse. A team of survivors who aren't well coordinated will most likely get run over. And to an extent this isn't the game's fault and is a natural thing in cooperative games. But with how easy it is to be killed when alone and how someone making a bad decision can snowball into the rest of the team dying, it can be really frustrating. However, as a group, survivors strong, and survivors can overpower the killer. The thing about killer is that unlike most other games in the genre, the killer can die. And not like Friday the 13th where dying's a win condition, dying is a normal thing. The killer side can choose between 4 different killers, and you can use 3 at a time. Whenever one dies, you have to switch to another one before playing the same one again. This can naturally be a problem in a sense, since making it so you can deal with the power roll can in cases reduce the amount of threat that roll poses, and survivors are able to do a decent amount of things that can stop the killer, such as using the items to stun or delay the killer, or the tech barricading walls, which I found to be really useful in some situations. There is a lot the killer can do in return though. One of the main mechanics of the killer is the Phantom mode, where the killer goes invisible and can set traps, another thing taken from Left 4 Dead. While in the Phantom mode, you recover a Nightmare Shield. This is basically just an extra bit of health added on top that regens while invisible. The game encourages you to hop in and out of Phantom mode in order to make use of the shield and its effect, which sounds good on paper, but the problem is that it can be easy to prevent the killer from spawning in. You just need to have your body be visible to them, and this would be fine, if not for the fact that the detection tends to be very inconsistent to say the least. There were a ton of times where the game would let the killer spawn in or out despite having line of sight on them, or it wouldn't let you spawn in, which seems counterproductive to what the game wants you to do. You can also use ambush spots while invisible to instantly kill someone. Just go in, wait for someone to walk over, and blam, they dead. However, this can be kind of an unfun thing to do. Not for the killer, it's satisfying to instantly kill someone, more for the survivors. It shouldn't be too hard to understand that instantly dying out of nowhere is kind of frustrating, and makes you feel like you got cheated out, especially if you had a strong item. You can learn the placements of the original 3 killers, though giants are not obvious. Can't learn the placement of Spider, whose ambushes are completely random. That's so stupid. Imagine how frustrating it is to get instantly killed at full health with a strong weapon, just because the game RNG'd a death spot where you happen to be standing. How is that fair or fun? Now, they aren't impossible to avoid. Trackers can reveal where they are, which can prevent them from happening. You can also use it to reveal gas that is hidden in scrap heaps, which is really good because it's really annoying. It just fucks with your controls and visions and is just obnoxious. And you also have traps. These will lock survivors who step in them for a couple seconds, allowing you to hit them. You can place these traps anywhere you have room to place them. Except when you can't. Okay, I don't know if this is a glitch or a stupid design choice, but for some reason the game will randomly just not let you place traps anymore. In fact, I noticed a couple of glitches during my playtime. And yes, glitches are expected and aren't intended for the game, but some of these really did hinder my experience. And the fact that I found them consistently really hurts. But back on topic, traps can also be broken by survivors, but there's this weird delay when doing it. And this isn't lag because everything else works fine and it's only with traps. Oh yeah, and the game is peer-to-peer, which... honestly, I'm not against peer-to-peer outright. I honestly felt it was never too bad with DVD and other games who had it. But with how low the player base is... yeah, it can be especially painful. So yeah, you may have noticed those last couple of things had a bit of negativity to them. And yeah, I did feel that there are negative things to them, but I mostly just found them to be annoyances rather than problems. They were enough to bother me and make me notice, but not enough to take me out of the experience. And the game has a lot of little annoyances. However, there are 2 problems that I have with the game that I could not get over. And each of these problems existed on one of the sides of the characters. With the killer, it was with how many cheap and cheesy ways it was to instantly kill you, or kill you quickly. I already mentioned the ambush spots, but then there's the fact that some killers' powers are extremely good at picking off people. Strangler is honestly bullshit. He has a chain that extends super far and will pull you in. They did change it so he couldn't hold you if it was a fire pull, but that doesn't change the fact that he can toss it, pull you over and into a trap, making it very easy for him to get a free kill by just punching you while you're in the trap. Or he can toss them into a trap in front of an ambush spot, allowing him for an easy insta-kill. Cool. Also, his ambush is the fastest in the game, allowing him to quickly insta-kill you, and then spawn in to scorpion you again. He is by far the most frustrating kill to face. And then there's the giant who can grab you, toss you into a corner, and then beat you to death. Or toss you off the map for an insta-kill. Or use an exploit, and yes, I'm calling it an exploit because I don't think it's intended, where you can cancel his grab charge by jumping and then immediately use it again. Meaning you can't attack him normally, and you can't run away from him because you'll run out of stamina before he runs out of his charge. Oh, by the way, on the Sawmill map there's environmental hazards that can kill both the survivors and the players, and you can get thrown into them fairly easily. I've had matches where teammates get into the match and get immediately thrown into the saw blade. But yeah, I really want to play on the new map you made, where I can die instantly within seconds of the match starting with little to nothing to do. This is honestly a big problem. The fact that there are multiple ways to instantly kill someone, with very little they can do to stop it, is incredibly frustrating. Also, did you know that originally all you had to do to get out of Strangler's grasp was have an ally press F on you? Now the only ways to use the tracker's flash, a smoke bomb, or a taser. 2 of those are expensive items, and the smoke bomb and tracker are both scout items. And since people don't like playing scouts, if they get grabbed, they're likely fucked. It's so baffling that they would remove counterplay to something that's really badly designed. However, I guess the devs did think they were overpowered, because they added something to survivors that is just as frustrating to play against. Which brings me to my second point, survivor spells. You gave perks to survivors, and not the killers. No, these are more like summoner spells in League, they're not perks. You activate it, and it does a thing, meaning there isn't a prerequisite for you to activate it, and they can be used multiple times per match. And these aren't small buffs either. There's the usual take less damage, heal allies more, do more damage. You know, the stuff that can maybe be balanced if the killer also had these powers. Then we get to the bullshit stuff like instantly reviving yourself off the ground, instantly breaking out of a trap, just not activating traps at all. It's such a stupid thing and it leads to most of the frustrating matches. I do believe the devs are planning on adding killer spells when Chapter 2 is released, but if that's the case, why not add to Chapter 2's release to add survivor spells as well? What's the point of adding spells to survivors that can have game-altering effects that make the game more frustrating to play if you aren't planning on adding these effects to both sides? And I know I'm probably sounding a bit harsh about the spells, and that's because, well, I kind of am. This part right here is being recorded a few days after the previous recording, because I've been playing the game a bit more to get some footage for certain things, and I feel my initial anger towards the spells was a bit more knee-jerk than it needed to be. I still feel like there are problems with the spells that I did talk about, like the power of some of them, and how survivors are the only ones who got it, but I don't think they're the worst part of the game, which is something I did say in the original recording. One problem with the spells I did notice when playing more though, was that there was some spells that seemed to actually be kinda useless, especially when compared to the very strong ones. Last man standing is kinda worthless, considering that having extra health when you're the last person standing doesn't mean anything considering all of the insta-kills, and the fact that the killer can just CC you. There's also a couple of other issues that I didn't mention that I noticed while playing the game some more. The biggest one, and actually one I kept forgetting to talk about, is the lack of a tutorial, which seems to be an issue with a lot of these games. All you get are tips in the corner of the lobby, which sometimes aren't even that helpful. I feel the game needs something more to help new players instead of putting them into a sink or swim situation. Maybe that would help make players want to play the game more. Also, the auto move on medic feels really off. I don't know if it's just me, but there are times it doesn't feel like the game knows how to move them properly with how the other players are moving, or it just moves me in a way that nearly gets me killed. And finally, I really hate how you have to press G to drop objectives. This may seem like a minor thing, but it's really annoying. Making F the pickup button and then switching to G feels really unnatural, and in close situations, I keep pressing F to drop it, because that's what every other game would do. And I know it's so you can grab scrap while carrying objectives, but to be honest, I'd rather not be able to grab scrap while carrying the objective if it meant I was able to drop it easier, or at the very least make it so you drop it when you're sprinting. Anyway, these were just some minor things I noticed that were a bit bothersome, but I forgot to talk about earlier. But with those out of the way, I think it's about time we looked at some things that I did like about the game. Because while there are a lot of things I have issues with in this game, there are some things I feel it does right. And the thing I feel it does best? The giant enemy spider. Seriously though, spider is what got me to buy this game. I mean, I like insects, so a playable spider is already up my alley. But having a non-humanoid killer is so cool. Usually we're stuck with either humans or humanoids. And Spider is honestly fun to play. If only I could only play a spider. And speaking of different playable characters, I like how we have different classes with different abilities for survivors. That helps set players apart from each other more than simply just having different sets of perks, making everyone feel more important to a match rather than one person just solo carrying, for better and for worse. It opens up different ways to deal with a situation and makes the game more interesting. My favorite being Tech, who on top of being able to place a turret, can also barricade doors and grates, which is both helpful and leads to fun situations. The game also has a decent amount of customization too, with not only different costumes for the characters, but different emotes and even weapon skins for every craftable weapon. Even the masks you won't see due to wearing them. Again, helping each player feel different from each other. Though they do tend to repeat themes a lot, would love to see more themes. And I love how despite each map having the same set objective for it, the locations of things change and the order you have to do changes as well, yet you are still able to freely explore the map in order to search for other things, such as scrap. Sure, you may have the gym, which is very linear, but then you have things like the sawmill and the library, which give you big areas to explore. That's so good. And that's about all I have to say about last year. Yeah, this game has been a very polarizing one. I feel the game's biggest issue comes with a lot of frustrating design choices. From the decision to give survivors spells and not killers, to giving killers a ton of ways to instantly kill you. I just found myself really frustrated with my experience. That being said, I was able to enjoy myself considerably more than when I first started. and there were times that I did want to come back and play the game despite its problems. Last Year is a game with a great idea that can be done pretty well, it's just that frustrating game design drags it down. Half the time I was having a pretty good time with the game, and the other half was one of the most infuriating experiences I've had playing a multiplayer game. But that's just how my experience was, and maybe yours is different. And if there's one thing I can say, is that unlike Death Garden, this game has hope to improve. The devs are still working on it, and maybe they'll be able to find a way to fix all of the issues that I've mentioned. As for what I'd fix about it, first off, give killers their own spells to balance out the survivor spells. I feel like the kill spell should be balanced in a way that rewards them more for using them on multiple people, so that it doesn't feel like one person is getting bullied out by a spell just getting blown up on them. Next, remove some of the frustrating things killers can do, like tossing people into traps for instant deaths, or requiring the scout to deal with Strangler. Players should never feel like they're cheaped out by a killer's bullshit. Maybe even make drastic changes to how a killer plays if you have to. Make some changes to matchmaking to improve new player experience and iron out some of the bugs. And you might have something really good on your hands. I feel like this game has the potential to be something great. And the devs have recently confirmed they have plans to fix certain issues with the game in the next big patch, which is slated for April. So I guess even if my experience with the game right now wasn't the best, maybe that experience can improve later on. Here's hoping. Name's Era. Thanks for watching.